You're listening to the Agony Column News Report featuring interviews, phone interviews, reports from live book events and festivals, and conversations with readers. You can find additional news, interviews, book reviews, and more 5 days a week at the Agony Column website at trashotron.com/agony. Chris Ware is the graphic novelist and the author of The Acme Novelty Library, Jimmy Corrigan, the Smartest Kid on Earth, Quimby the Mouse, and Rusty Brown. His latest book is a box set of the comics that comprise Building the Stories. Thank you for joining me, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's very kind of you.
Chris, when we read this, it comes together to us as what I would call a Dickensian tale set in a single building in Chicago in the current day and sometimes in the past. And I think it's a really beautiful and human and moving story, but it came out as a separate series of pieces. I'd like you to talk about creating those pieces and how much of the overall story you knew from the beginning and how much of it developed in the course of creating the work.
Sure. I started it, I think now 11 years ago, for a Swiss magazine called Hangar 21, and the requirement for my contributions to that magazine was that I had to letter each strip in French and German. I had to do two separate versions in languages that I didn't understand, so I tried to do strips that had very little words. So the very first strip I did was about a woman living on the third floor of an apartment building in Chicago, told almost entirely in pantomime, and at first I thought that would be that, but from there I started writing stories about the other inhabitants of the building, somewhat inspired by Krzysztof Kieslowski's Decalogue film, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a 10-part series of films that he did for Polish television that all add up to an intertwined story. And initially I thought what I was working on was something along those lines. The story developed sort of organically from there. But I realized as I was working on it that the character with whom I'd started, the woman on the third floor, was, for better or for worse, was sort of the main character. So then the story ended up being filtered entirely through her mind and not being sort of an objective way of trying to look at the way the various people in the building interact. It became more about her life and her interpretations of what the people who lived in the building were like.
Talk about creating a character first entirely in pantomime. Did you know much about her? And
sample complete. Ready to continue?